Get bad news I want from him because he's very handsome. Dr. Irwin Redlenner joins us now. MSNBC medical expert. Dr. Irwin Redlenner.
Here he became Dr. Doom.
Dr. Irwin Redlenner is the founding director of the National Center for Disaster Preparedness and senior research scholar.
Dr. Doom.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Redlenner. Hello.
Good morning, Stephanie Miller. How are you?
Well, I gotta say, we could not wait to talk to you first about this Twitter bullying of Dr. Hotez by, I don't know who, Joe Rogan, Bobby Kennedy Jr., Elon Musk jumped in. I loved, here was Aaron Rupart tweeted, "Debate Me has become a bad faith propaganda tool for the right, designed to legitimize lies and target critics for harassment. It's ripped from the right's free speech playbook, which demands bad actors get access to all platforms and audiences or else." Right? I mean, here is this world-class scientist, Dr. Hotez, like getting playground bullied by these idiots, right?
Yeah, I know Peter. I'm a friend of his, and it's appalling. It's appalling not so much to have a conversation, but to put Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Peter Hotez on the same playing field it's absurd. It's like having a pro football player, be on a team battling, middle school kids.
Yeah.
And I think it's just an outrageous twisting of what we mean by meaningful debate around important issues. There's always two sides or 10 sides, but not all sides are equal, Stephanie.
And it either
Yeah.
elevates the lunatic or it brings you down to their level. I mean, you're also a world-renowned doctor. You're all over television. How would you react if, say, Alex Jones said, "Come debate me on my show about vaccine"? It seems like it's just, what did they say about mud wrestling a pig, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, you both get dirty.
yeah, and he likes it. Yeah.
Yeah. Before I went to MSNBC, I would periodically go on Fox to talk about situations with the vaccine. And the reasoning for people like me who do that, who do get engaged with this other, side, is that they have a huge freaking audience.
Yeah.
Right.
So your hope is, it's like, I think if I go on there and make a good case, I will convince some people in the far right, part of the MAGA cult, to reconsider what they're doing. If I can go on there and say, "Listen, you're going to kill your grandma, so, good luck with not vaccinating," that somehow maybe we'd move a few people. But on the other hand, it's really debasing to think you're engaging in an intellectual argument about vaccines.
In a good faith argument.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like Bobby Kennedy or Joe Rogan. It's really a no-win situation ultimately.
Yeah, and we said this last week, Doc. You're a doctor. You're interested in saving lives. It's what you dedicated your life to. You don't take pleasure in reading statistics that how much higher the percentage of Trump voters or red state voters are dying of COVID than blue state or Biden voters. That's not the way doctors want it to be.
Right. Peter Hotez is going to be coming out with his new book.
Yeah.
That says that Donald Trump was responsible for hundreds of thousands of unnecessary deaths from COVID by promulgating these ideas that were just wacky, anti-science. The damage done by these people is just unspeakable, and I don't know how they live with themselves. But to think about the fact that one guy, one party, one group of MAGA cultists basically been responsible for the deaths of so many innocent people who bought their line. It's very painful. It's very sad, actually.
Doc, you mentioned this last week, of course, corroborated all the headline this morning. Nearly all COVID deaths in the U.S. are now among the unvaccinated. A staggering demonstration of how effective the shots have been, an indication that the deaths per day, now down to under 300, could be practically zero if everyone eligible got the vaccine. Breakthrough infections in fully vaccinated people account for 0.1%. of infections. So they 98 to 99% of Americans dying of the coronavirus right now are unvaccinated. CDC Director Michelle Walensky said the vaccine is so effective, nearly every death, especially among adults due to COVID-19, is at this point entirely preventable, which she called particularly tragic. My girlfriend just traveled this week. She said, I'm literally one of only 2 people, I think, in LAX in the airport with a mask on. Yep. Right? I mean, she has asthma and allergies, underlying conditions. But, I get it that I'm vaccinated. I won't die, but I don't want to get it. I don't want to bring it to my 100-year-old mother. I mean, it's...
This is the problem. If you don't get vaccinated, even if you're healthy and you don't get sick, you can become a carrier.
Right.
Delivering a kind of a doomsday message to vulnerable people. Hi, I'm here to visit you, and I'm not wearing a mask. I'm carrying COVID. Good luck.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a certain kind of uncaring about people around you to allow you to violate basic public health rules and common sense. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not optimistic that we're going to get far in getting these people who are recalcitrant to do what's right for the country, or to understand that the line they were getting from Trump and his followers and from Bobby Kennedy Jr. is a false proposition. You're obeying a false expert who's giving you the wrong info, and you're making decisions based on that.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. And, and for doctors to see this, there's a lot of head shaking. How can it be? I remember in 2020, my son was director of a big ER in New York. They were overwhelmed. He called us one night and said one of the nurses that worked for him died. A 40-year-old man died of COVID. And, why?
Yeah.
Why is that? And we have a lot of introspection to deal with here, but it's pretty sad.
Yeah. You said Dr. Hotez. By the way, tell him to come on the show for his book. Give us a call. Yeah. But, it's interesting because I know Bobby Kennedy Jr., and this is why I've talked about it on the show, Doc, that this whole thing actually makes me sad because I knew him when he was fighting for great causes. We had him on the show. He was a friend. I got to go to the Kennedy compound. So I feel personally, I can't even explain the level of sadness. When I watch some of these clips, I feel like he's clearly just not well. And he's clearly being used, to hurt Joe Biden. I mean, it's obviously when Roger Stone and Steve Bannon are promoting you and outwardly saying this is to damage Biden, I just don't know what he's thinking.
Well, I'm not ashamed to say that I was really a fan of the Kennedys.
Sure.
Jack and Bobby's father and Ted Kennedy, a tremendous. They didn't call him the Lion of the Senate for nothing. This family has contributed unimaginably incredible things to the country.
I keep this quote here because of Sexy Liberal, just because it reminds me why we called it that as, a joke. But the famous JFK quote, if by liberal they mean someone who looks ahead and not behind, someone who welcomes new ideas without rigid reactions, someone who cares about the welfare of the people, their health, their housing, their schools, their jobs, their civil rights, and their civil liberties, someone who believes we can break through the stalemate and suspicions that grip us in our policies abroad, if that's what they mean by a liberal, then I'm proud to say I'm a liberal.
This is it, and this is why. And I was actually at Kennedy's house, at Bobby Kennedy's house, also years ago. They used to have these flag football games and this and that, and a big his own compound up there. And it was like awesome to be with a Kennedy. I'm not ashamed to say
I got to play Bananagram with Ethel Kennedy. I got to watch the news at dinner with Ethel Kennedy.
And this is one of the profound disappointments.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if his father could possibly be aware of what's become of Junior here? It's
making analogies to Nazis, vaccines. They use the vaccines on Jews and gypsies.
It's pretty sick. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, it hurts my heart.
Go. What are you going to do? It's like, and I think he could be a factor in the election.
Yeah.
It was. You can't imagine it, but he could actually be the straw that breaks the back of Biden's reelection campaign.
We've talked about this all week, Doc, that we're reminded yesterday with this whole Durham thing, proving the entire Trump-Russia thing. Adam Schiff was dead on correct about everything he said. There was massive collusion. There was massive obstruction. But again, the whole point was to get enough Bernie voters to vote for Jill Stein in those swing states. That's why they shared the polling data with in those 3 states. And so you're right. We know that one factor this way or that way, be it Bobby Kennedy or something else, and Russian involvement again. Now with AI, I mean, God knows what's going to happen. So I think we're right to be terrified.
I'm terrified.
Yeah.
And it's like, one thing I've been very interested. We're going back to Ukraine, on Monday, Karen and I. And one of the things we're doing, besides looking at a whole bunch of programs that we're supporting or want to support in Ukraine, is we're going to be meeting with the Ministry of Education, who, by the way, the children of Ukraine are really, really under tremendous stress here. Their education has been grossly disrupted. So after a year of schools being closed in Ukraine because of the pandemic, now comes the war. And I don't know how remediation is going to work out here, but this is something that we're actually interested in working with the Clinton Global Foundation and helping Ukraine get a handle on continuity of education for its children. But, this is a whack-a-mole world now.
Well, yes, if Trump's latest statement is correct, Hillary will be in jail and unable to help you with that, with the Clinton Foundation. But I don't know what to say. Listen, you and Mrs. Doom, Karen, I love that your wife is named Karen, because that is, known as a white lady that likes to complain about things, but she complains about the right things, like, Ukrainian kids getting their education interrupted and such. So good for your Karen.